Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we've got a late night insight video on a house that I've actually done no videos on the channel yet. I've talked about before, but it's a house that I own 0 bottles from. I actually am not very enamored with this house. Actually, I don't like them at all. But this is a new fragrance, and every year this house has a month where you can buy all of the city exclusives, basically either online or in any of their shops, and the house is Labo. And so they have a new fragrance for the September city exclusive, which actually starts tomorrow. It happens to be August 31st. So tomorrow, September 1st through September 30th only, you can buy these, I think, on the Labo website. And this is the brand new one. It's going to be the Shanghai city exclusive, from what I understand. And this is called Myrrh 55. So this was actually sent to me by a very generous benefactor who keeps me well stocked with new releases. Otherwise, I'd never do these new fragrance releases. I'm always years late, sometimes decades late. Those are my favorite ones to review, the stuff from 80, 90, 95, the older stuff, right? But sometimes I sneak one of these new reviews in, but not because I'm trying, literally because it falls into my lap. Otherwise, it just wouldn't happen. I'm not one of the YouTubers who is like rushing to get the new content out there because I know it gets the most clicks. I honestly could give two shits. But this one happened to fall in my lap, so I figured, what the hey. So this is Myrrh 55 by the House of Labo. And this is my very first Labo video. Like I said, I've talked about another Labo, which I have a love-hate relationship with. This is the closest thing to a bottle of Labo that I own, and it's Santal 33. I got this from the Perfumed Court many years ago, and Santal 33 is just such a brash, bold, insane fragrance that part of me that loves crazy fragrances, like, you know, vintage hardcore fragrances, Koros, and, you know, those 80s, you know, big time masculine bombs, Antaeus and stuff like that with lots of castoreum. I really like this because there's some balls to it. But on the other hand, I hate it because it's so just pickly, and there's like this weird, you know, love-hate relationship that I have with Santal 33. So I'll review this. This is probably one of the only Lalabos that will get a slightly decent rating from me. But let's talk a little bit about Myrrh 55, the new one. So let me read you the little blurb, and we'll talk a little bit about, you know, pricing and all that fun stuff when it comes to Labo. So it says, Myrrh, a resin once considered to be so sacred that it was more valuable than gold. It is known in Chinese traditional medicine as a blood mover, whatever that means. It should come as no surprise then that Myrrh 55, Shanghai's city exclusive, is a creation that will get your heartbeat thumping. Man, that sounds like a bad advertisement for a crappy concert. Myrrh, which smells of incense with a strong licorice twist. I don't know about that description on Myrrh there, Labo. I'll tell you what I think Myrrh smells like in a minute. Is at the heart of this creation, because it's getting your heart thumping. Its partners in crime are jasmine and patchouli, all well anchored on a bed of oud, ambergris, and of course, musk. Don't worry, all vegan notes. Myrrh 55 is and I didn't say that, by the way. I'm reading that off the website. Don't worry, all vegan notes. Myrrh 55 is understated elegance, emanating contemporary yet creative classicism that makes it hard to ignore and forget. It's a Chypre, ladies and gents. Okay. Dark and electric, old and new, just like Shanghai. All year round, city exclusive 50 ml, 100 ml, and 500 ml bottles can be refilled in select Labo worldwide. Okay. So that's the deal, and that's their little breakdown, which really doesn't tell you too much. I'll tell you what I think about this perfume. So the very first thing that you should know about it is the first 3 hours of this fragrance, it leans very feminine, okay, to my nose. I think there's a lot of jasmine that they've ended up putting in here. I think they actually put a little too much jasmine in here for a unisex fragrance. I think that this is going to smell amazing on a woman mostly, to my way of thinking about feminine fragrances versus masculine fragrances. Now, I've been wearing this. I've worn it to bed 3 times now, so I have some pretty good experience with the fragrance. I put a respectable sized dent in this little, what is this, like a 1.5 mil jobber? I think it is a 1.5 mil jobber. I put a respectable little dent in this. Yes, 1.5 mils. The Labo can't even give you 2 mils. And so when I spray this on, the first thing you get is this very fluffy. So in your mind, picture a white cloud, a fluffy white cloud. And it's very powdery. This is a very white, fluffy, powdery type fragrance with a lot of white jasmine in the opening. There was only one review on YouTube yet about Myrrh 55, and it is from oh gosh, I forget his name. He's one of the guys that does a lot of like niche fragrances. No hype review man. I forget his name. But he did a review on this, and he called it a solar jasmine. And actually, I like that. Solar jasmine is a good word for it because the jasmine is, you know, it's almost like taking the spotlight and shining it on the jasmine. But also the jasmine seems slightly radiant in the fragrance, especially the first couple hours. The jasmine is extremely radiant, and it's extremely, I think, you know, it's almost overdosed to a sense where your nose keeps sort of going back to it and back to it and back to it. Now there's other things in here. There's some musk, which you will pick up on, obviously, but the most prominent nose in the prologue, the first couple hours, is that jasmine. There's no doubt about it. Now, the jasmine appears almost to be cut with like this powdery substance, and the powdery substance they're calling myrrh. Now, myrrh to me is nothing. The myrrh that's used in Myrrh 55 to me is absolutely nothing like the myrrh that you are probably thinking of if you have experience with vintage fragrances. My heart is with vintage fragrances. It always will be. And so if you've ever smelled something like the original Opium, this is the Charles of the Ritz bottle of Opium. It's absolutely stunning. One of the greatest fragrances of all time, and probably one of the coolest bottles, and advertising campaigns and all of that. Just an absolute hit. I think this is more unisex than this, to be honest with you. And this is a feminine targeted fragrance from 1977. I love wearing Opium, especially when the weather starts cooling. Oh my God, the myrrh and Apopanax and clove and all the spices and all the stuff in Opium, it literally is like a drug. It's intoxicating to me. I love that stuff. There's a brilliant myrrh note in something like Jubilation 25 by Amouage. And I love wearing this when the weather starts cooling down as well. And there's a brilliant myrrh note in Songe du Bois de Et, which is now Bois Mysterieux by Guerlain. This is a brilliant, again, probably better for the cooler fragrances, but all of these work amazing in the heat as well, especially this one. This one really shines in the heat, but that myrrh, leathery dry down, I think is absolutely brilliant in there. So if you know sort of vintage myrrh, or myrrh that I would say, if you're familiar with myrrh and other compositions, especially old school type myrrh scents, it's nothing like the Le Labo. And what's crazy about Le Labo and their sort of creation on their stance on creating perfume is that whenever they name a fragrance, so whenever you see like Le Labo, you know, I don't know, Bergamot 22 or you know, there'll be all these other Le Labos, Gaillac this, or Ylang Ylang that, or all this other stuff, which, you know, many times Le Labo, when they release a fragrance, it's nothing like the actual note that's highlighted on the tin. So people buy this and they think, oh, this is going to be an absolute myrrh bomb, right? And it's actually not. They've done it again with Myrrh 55, because myrrh in the traditional use with things like Opium, Jubilation 25, Songe du Bois de Et, that sort of thing, is a very bitter-like smell. Myrrh has this sort of bitter, earthy warmth about it, this real warmth. Like the, you know how earlier we called the jasmine solar jasmine, right? Well, the myrrh is really the sun note. It really is the note where the heat and the warmth emanates from when you're smelling a fragrance with a real myrrh note. Some people can claim it can be somewhat spicy. Some people can claim it can have these little green touches from time to time, like an evergreen or a spruce or pine or something like that. But most people aren't picking up the green little touches. I guess it depends on what type of myrrh you're smelling. But mostly, to my nose, a well-done proper myrrh note should be resinous, bitter, slightly aromatic, and ambery. There should be this ambery warmth, you know, like putting on a I don't know, like a big down jacket or something in the cold, you know, and you just really feel that warmth, right? That's what a good myrrh note in a fragrance should bring to you. And what's so funny about it is, it almost feels, the fragrance that they created for Myrrh 55, it almost feels like there's this white, fluffy coolness to the fragrance. Like imagine sitting on a ski lift up high, right? And the high wind is sort of hitting your face, right? Whether it's cold or not outside, you're all bundled up. Maybe you don't feel it as much, but when you get up high and the wind hits you, you sort of feel it a little bit more. Imagine being like on the top of a mountain and that wind sort of really hitting you and you're really high up in the altitude. Or imagine going up in a hot air balloon and whenever you get high enough, you realize, damn, it's kind of cold, it's nippy. You know what I mean? Like I need a little bit of a jacket or something because you get cold up there, the higher that you get in the altitude, right? It's not cold necessarily. I don't want to give the impression that the fragrance feels and smells cold because it doesn't, but there's this weird coolness about it. And it's so crazy that it's called Myrrh 55 because, again, to my way of thinking, Myrrh should have this warmth about it. And this is the exact opposite. So this is Le Labo either purposely, you know, fucking with things, just like, hey guys, you want to create a myrrh fragrance and make it cool? Or they don't know what they're doing and they just sort of put something out there and end up calling it Myrrh 55. I honestly can't decide with the Labo whether they know what they're doing and they're choosing to make stuff like this and go against the grain because it's like the hipster, you know, like we're the hipster cool guys. We're going to release a myrrh fragrance that's cool, literally cool to the touch. And so it's just, it's weird. It's a weird fragrance. And it does feel slightly unique, but on the other hand, as it continues to dry down, what you end up getting, the aspect of the myrrh that actually comes forward to my nose that's very strange is the medicinal aspect, okay? So you don't get the ambery warmth, you don't get the resinous, you don't even get much of the bitter aspects of it. And you don't get the sort of, you know, sometimes jasmine can have that slight fecal-like smell. You don't get any of the indoles, okay? So the jasmine is not indolic. It's a somewhat clean jasmine, but when you mix it with that coolness, if you will, and then the medicinal aspect of the myrrh, it seems strange and out of place and weird. You know, and that's Le Labo's aesthetic, actually. So in effect, this is a perfect Le Labo fragrance. I don't like the Le Labo aesthetic. I don't really care for it. I don't think it's necessarily shite. I just don't think they're very good perfume, to be honest with you. I just don't think they're very good perfume. They're definitely not for me. I'll tell you that. They're definitely 100% not for me. But, you know, it just feels out of place with the coolness, and it really does feel like you need that blanket. You want something to sort of cover you up after wearing this because it's so strange and weird and almost sci-fi in its coolness. And then, finally, as the fragrance continues to dry, 3-4 hours in, that's where that oud note starts to come in. And honestly, this is where maybe Le Labo makes the worst mistake of this particular fragrance in my mind. You could almost get away with all the other stuff, but the oud that comes in here feels cheap. And granted, I've been smelling a lot of Ensars and Aries Ladores and Rising Phoenix and Bortnikoffs and all of these real ouds, and you can't compare. I know you cannot compare stuff, but this has a oud accord, or some of the other, maybe this one doesn't, but many of these Middle Eastern Guerlains have an oud accord, and I think they're done way better than, you know, what Le Labo is putting out for an oud accord. Or, you know, there are oud accords out there that are respectable. This one to me smells extremely cheap, and maybe it's just mixing with that strange medicinal myrrh and musk, and you know, at 3 or 4 hours in, though, the jasmine will start to tone down, but this fragrance lasts forever, too. It's a 12-hour perfume. I can smell it in the morning a lot of times when I wake up after wearing it, and that oud, once the jasmine tones down 3 hours in or so, it feels less and less of a hardcore feminine leaning fragrance. Like the first couple hours, it's hardcore feminine. I think many men would struggle many men that are used to traditional Western perfumery would struggle with this. Now, that all that's out of the way, price. price. This fragrance is $515 for 100 ml, which is like, Le Labo is completely out of their damn minds. If you're gonna spend that, honestly, just go buy the Arise L'Adore classic set whenever they come out. Like there's absolutely no reason to give Le Labo $515 before tax on this. Honestly, it's I don't know if you came to me right now with a 100 ml bottle and said, Ramsey, I'm gonna take a 0 off. I'll give it to you for $51. Do you want it? I'd probably say, nah, I don't think so. Because I don't even want to waste my time wearing this. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many other perfumes that I would much rather wear that having this in my collection is almost like, man, it might take a day away when I could have been wearing Antaeus or, hell, even Opium. Let me wear this, you know? And so, for me, this is a hard pass, big time hard pass. I'm glad I got to smell it and do the video for you guys. I don't get to do many of these new videos. And thank you to my perfume god person for sort of supplying me with this, but this is exactly, almost exactly what I expected from Le Labo, to a T. And that's not a good thing, by the way, Le Labo. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope some of you can get your nose on this city exclusive, because otherwise, if you don't get it before September 30th, you have to go to Shanghai to give Le Labo $515 of your hard-earned money for this. So, anyways, just supposed to be a quick hit late night video. I'm going to go to bed. Actually, I'm going to go smoke a cigar. Then I'm going to go to bed. So, hope you guys appreciate the video. Do leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.